Blessings. As well as having the document in front of you, we've also put it on the screen as well. So we'll go through the slides as we go through the meeting. So the first item on the agenda is the Grenfell report. On the 14th of June 2017, the members of An Noor responded to the tragic fire which engulfed the Grenfell Tower situated in West London. An Noor immediately set up a task force and devised an action plan of how to assist those affected by this fire, initially distributing cash funds on the ground within the first few days to support those most affected. Over 50 volunteers came forward from across the country, and An Noor was overwhelmed with supplies, donations and resources that were being dropped off at the mosque. The task force managed four distribution locations across West London and sorted through tons of donated items. Volunteers helped prepare and deliver over 300 aid parcels to hotels and temporary accommodations of where the victims were being placed. Over the years since the fire, the task force met and made contact with over 200 residents with the support of the parish of St. Clements and St. James. The force distributed financial aid and purchased household items and covered basic expenses such as food, clothing and shelter for those affected by this tragedy. The funds raised also covered operating costs and distribution points. We hold all the financial records and the contact details of everyone we assist. That's in regards to Grenfell Tower report. I was personally there in the early hours that this tower block was on fire, and it took me back to the scenes of the September 11 attacks when the tower was on fire. It resembled the same scenario, and An Noor had to do something. So An Noor responded, and like I said in the beginning, in a matter of days, we raised over £100,000. And this money was given. I personally gave most of it myself and joined the task force. And some of the members are here today and gave these people their money. We have the records, we have the documentation here. If anybody would like to see it after, they're more than welcome to.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's worship. We know that his masjid's agenda is to do with facts pertaining to the property purchase and ownership. As you're all aware, for many of you who have been coming to this masjid since it was purchased and the walls were knocked down and it was turned from a place of kufr and disbelief and haram to a place of tawheed, a place where
the facts pertaining to the property purchase and the ownership has been a bone of contention starting in late 2012. But let me take you back to the beginning, which is 2005, as you can see on the screen there. A company called Brick Creek Limited was incorporated on the 25th of October 2004 as a subsidiary of another company called Bamford Trust. An Noor Trust was incorporated on the 4th of April 2005. This property was purchased by the company called Brick Creek Limited for the sum of £1 million from the Royal British Legion on the 23rd of September 2005 and completed on the 22nd, 2005. An Noor Trust, the company incorporated on the 4th of April 2005, acquired the shares of Brick Creek Limited as the corporate vehicle to purchase this property in late December 2005 for the use of the local Muslim community as a mosque and community center. The money involved, the finances. An Noor Trust, the company or the trust incorporated on 4th of April 2005. Approached the bank, HSBC Aman at the time. I was able to secure the sum of £700,000 of the £1 million that was needed to purchase the building. So the bank gave An Noor Trust £700,000, and the balance was raised by the local Muslim community. 2005. Approached the bank, HSBC Aman at the time. I was able to secure the sum of £700,000 of the £1 million that was needed to purchase the building. So the bank gave An Noor Trust £700,000, and the balance was raised by the local Muslim community. So Brickridge Limited owns this building, owns this land, and purchased this property for the use of the Muslim community in 2005. The reason why Brickridge was used as a tariqah, as a vehicle, is because this place used to belong to the Royal British Legion, and they never want to sell to Muslims. So an SPV was created, they call it a special purpose vehicle. So Brickridge fronted the transaction. An Noor Trust was in the background because An Noor Trust held the 100% shares in Brickridge Limited. So An Noor owns the building by virtue of its shares in its sister company called Brickridge Limited. Does that make sense? Does it make sense? So this is the documentation that proves that the only shareholder, the only rightful shareholder is An Noor Trust, not Mr. Reid, who is myself, and not any other individual, and not any other individual. On the screen there's two certificates, one for the value of 99 shares and the other for 1 share.
Assalamu alaikum. There needs to be some clarification here. Firstly, we have established that Khalid was the owner or managing director over An Noor Trust. So why the dispute now? The dispute now is between Khalid and Abdul Hadi. Abdul Hadi has made claim to 1% of the company and has registered his interest as a shareholder. Having that 1% on his name meant that Khalid may have lost his property which he put up for the masjid. So this, as we will explore further, will be a bone of contention between Abdul Hadi and Khalid. Kalim, on the other hand, is trying to confuse the situation here by saying that Khalid was not the owner and that the community was wholly and truly represented by Abdul Hadi alone, which is a false narrative that's being played out here.
Rashad, who was the former director of this masjid since 2005 up until his arrest and subsequent conviction in 2015. Mr. Mitchell sought to take control of An Noor Trust and ownership of Brickridge and thereby the property. He altered the register of shareholders of Brickridge to show himself as the 100% shareholder of Brickridge. This is why when you go to the company's house, you will see that his name is there, and you also see that my name is also there, and I will explain further. Number 2, there was no transfer by An Noor Trust of its shares in the company Brickridge to Mr. Mitchell or any other individual, nor could there be any valid reason for such transfer, since An Noor Trust owned the shares of Brickridge. An Noor Trust owns the company Brickridge. Brickridge owns the building. In 2005, why would those shares that belong to An Noor Trust, which represents the body of people sitting here today, the community, transfer those shares to one individual? We'll leave that to question and answers. Number 3, the sole shareholder of Brickridge from 2005 onwards was An Noor Trust. The wrongful and fraudulent registration by Mr. Mitchell and whosoever aided him as shareholder of the company was void, null and void, and of no effect. Furthermore, he was never validly issued those shares or transferred those shares in the company. Number 4, the shareholding register was altered by myself in 2015/2016 with the intention of saving this place. With the intention of saving this place and protecting the ownership of the shares of the company to ensure the continued use and the occupation of the property as a mosque and community centre for the benefit of the local people. I strongly deny that I acted fraudulently, as I do not ask for personal gain, and I acted to protect those shares in the company for the benefit of the local Muslim community. And notwithstanding, I acted with the written authority and the subsequent approval of Mr. Mitchell, aka Mr. Rashad. You may ask, why did I alter the shareholders register in 2018? Why did I do it? I'll answer that in the Q&A. In October 2012, Mr. Arwani, Imam Abdul Hadi Arwani, the Imam of the mosque, sought to oppose Mr. Mitchell's attempt to take Brickridge, the company that owned this land, owned this property from the community, by issuing proceedings to rectify the register of An Noor Trust, from which Mr. Mitchell had wrongfully removed him to show himself as a member of the company. I will hold my hands up. I had no knowledge, I had no idea what the civil dispute was between Mr. Awani and Mr. Mitchell. This letter is from solicitors who was acting on behalf of Sheikh Abdul Hadi Awani. It's a 3-page document, I'm not going to read it out. I'm going to read to you the pivotal points. It says, Dear Mr. Mitchell, we are instructed by members of the An Noor Trust, a community based in West London. We understand that An Noor Trust is the sole shareholder in the company.
Okay, further clarification on this matter. An Noor Trust incorporated around 2005. Khalid had put up his 300k property to secure the mortgage, and he was the main owner and director of An Noor Trust, ending in 627. If we go down to the filing history and we look at 20th of October 2005, we can see Abdul Hadi was a director around this time, one of many, but he had not brought up the issue of the 1% until 2012.
Civil dispute between Mr. Mitchell lasted for 3 years, 2012, 2013, 2014. Litigation between solicitors, backward and forward, backward and forward, backward and forward. There was a mediation, and I attended that mediation as well as the directors of the trust at that time. And the crux of the matter was that Mr. Rashad, aka Mr. Mitchell, had in his possession the 100% shares of An Noor Trust. And Mr. Arwani, the director of An Noor Trust, was requesting the court to reinstate him as a director and for the shares of An Noor Trust to be returned back to An Noor Trust. That discussion and that matter was due for court in July 2015. July 2015, the judge has set a window for that trial to take place. Trial, not a hearing, trial. A 3-day trial. Mr. Awani is executed on the 7th of April. The evidence and the documentation that Sheikh Abdul Hadi was bringing as his defense in his case and his trial that was due to take place is the same evidence that I brought in the case that was brought against me. Mr. Mitchell was charged on the 18th of April 2015 for the murder of Mr. Arwani. Allah yarhamu. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept him. And convicted by jury in February 2016. Part of the motive for this murder was the civil case proceedings brought against Mr. Mitchell by Mr. Awani. And as we all know, Mr. Mitchell is serving a life sentence of 32 years in prison. I must state that this is not personal. We accept these two faces, these two brothers on the screen, we accept them as brothers. This is a recap of the timeline here. Sheikh Abdul Hadi is murdered on the 7th. Mr. Mitchell is arrested on the 14th. He's charged on the 18th of April. In between April and July, the masjid is under siege. The police, Scotland Yard, MI5, counter-terrorism. The whole of the enforcement, law enforcement is here, combing this building. The building is closed for 2.5 weeks. I was here and a few handful of brothers were here. Make sure that not leave their hand. As soon as the police left, the London Fire Brigade, the Health and Safety Executive, Building Control knocked on our door and said we are shutting this place down because this place, in short, in summary, is not safe for public use. And if you remember 7 years ago, there was no ceiling, there was wires hanging all over, live wires, I'm talking about dead wires, live wires all over the place. I was here because, so I knew, on the 3rd of July, a document or 3 documents, they're on the screen. They're filled in by myself and they are signed, and you can see my signatures there, below Mr. Rashad's signature. And they are given to Mr. Tahir, who is representing Mr. Rashad, aka Mr. Mitchell at the time. This time he was residing in Belmont prison. So the bank especially were calling this place, and they were calling directors at the time. Remember, I was not a director at this time. I was appointed on the 3rd of July. And I have the emails and I have the call logs. They were calling. They said, we are aware that Mr. Rashad is incarcerated or is in police custody, but we just want our money. Meaning they want their mortgage payment. I said, yes, I'm aware. We owe you every month £5,182. I know. My name is Mr. Reid, and I'm standing in for Mr. Rashad. Because at that time, we believed that he was going to get bail, he would have his trial, and he would come home. But little did we know that wasn't the case. But the mission goes on. And so it did. So the next time I received a call from Mr. Rashad, I let him know. The bank's calling. The bank wants their money. But the bank cannot talk to me. You must appoint me. Officially, as a director, because those of you who run companies, and if you have a bank account, The only person or people that can talk to the bank are those who are signatories or those who are directors. Is that true? Yes. Class. Remember, there are other directors, but they're not responding, they're not communicating, they're not answering the call of the bank, so the bank is panicking. We have an asset here. Do we repossess the building? Or do we give them a chance? So they give us a chance. And I called the bank manager and said, I have the documents. I have documents. He said I must come and see him in Canary Wharf. Big tower, HSBC headquarters. And I went top floor, first time. I said, wow. Why? I can't really comment because that's before my time. I just landed. So what are my options? They said, Mr. Reid, I'll be quite honest with you. We're going to shut your accounts down and you have to bank somewhere else. Unless you can rectify these accounts, and they're talking 15 years going back to rectify. Or you find another bank to bank with. Anyway, on my way down in the lift, all the way back down, the bank manager, who alhamdulillah, his name is Mr. Khan, he's a Muslim brother. He said, Mr. Reid, the best thing for you to do is open a new account. This is his personal opinion, off the record. This is his personal opinion. I said, I take your advice. And I took his advice. So I attempted to open an account. And I failed miserably. I take your advice. And I took his advice. So I attempted to open an account. And I failed miserably. I take your advice. And I took his advice. So I attempted to open an account. And I failed miserably. Because every time I approach a high street bank and they looked at who was on the company record, they said, no, Mr. Reid, I'm sorry. We don't want to touch your accounts, we don't want to bank with you. I said, I'm really cream cracking in, to be honest. So I took advice, legal advice. And another company was formulated called ACCC Trust in October 2015. And this took over from An Noor Trust. So these directors who were directors are supposed to be directing the masjid. At the time Mr. Mitchell was arrested, they were nowhere to be seen because this place was on fire. Scotland Yard, MI5, MI6, counter-terrorism, the press, you name it, was here. Even some of the directors had the press outside their house and their wives were complaining, go away, I will divorce you. Because the pressure was mounting and these people disappeared. They abandoned the house of Allah. I was appointed by Mr. Rashad on the 3rd of July. As I previously said, the director responsible for running the companies and the property at the time, Mr. Mitchell, was arrested, and his conviction, they distanced themselves completely and they failed to perform their statutory duties. If you run a company, you are a director, you have a legal obligation. I'm not going to go into it because if you haven't run a company, you don't own a company, you've never been a director, it's pointless me going into it. But you have a legal obligation to that company to perform. The termination of these directors were between late 2015 and 2016 of which each director would have received correspondence from Companies House in respect of their termination and issued 28 days to respond. I deny that any director was wrongfully removed. In April 2016, it was during the month of Ramadan, I was here, we just finished praying Fajr, and I got a call from my parents and said, the MI5 is here to speak to you at Scotland Yard, at counter-terrorism police. There's 14 police officers here, and they have a warrant for your arrest. I said, okay. And I left the property, and I drove home. And I met with the officers. I said, what's this all about? I said, Mr. Reid, you're under arrest for the conspiracy of assisting Mr. Mitchell in the falsification of financial documents relating to all of these companies in which I've just made mention of. I said, okay. And we attended Wembley police station, and I was interviewed and released and under investigation for 2 years. The case was non-action. Documentation that there is a claim against me in the county court at Peterborough. And this is in regard to the shares of brokerage that Mr. Rashad is claiming belong to him. And he's asking the court to reinstate him as a director. So this is the claim form. The first claim form received in November. The value of the land he claims to be £7 million. The value of each share to be £15,000. The total value of those shares to be £1.5 million. I would like also Mr. Reid to be removed from the company. I have given him the opportunity to do this and he has refused. I need the company to return to my name because the company owns the title deeds and the land. So Khalid has said today that the conditions for moving forward are as follows. Reinstate all the directors of his company. Allocate back all the shares to himself 100%. Hand back all the keys to the building. Pack your bags and leave the building with all those who reside inside of there. You're not welcome to negotiate with him at all. The alternative is to appear in court. He will see this as far as it can go. The summary of Khalid's amended claim is as follows. And hear me carefully. Khalid claims a declaration that this property is held by the company for himself. Number 2, that this property is held by the company for the benefit of himself to the value of 36%. Number 3, he now asks the court to make a decision on what he thinks is fit for the ownership of this property. Point B, on order for sale of the property to realize. C, a declaration that the transfer of the company shares from Khalid to me was unlawful and is invalid. D, an order rescinding those said shares. E, an order to rectify the books to show Khalid Rashad, aka Bernard Mitchell, as the sole shareholder of the company. F, further, and in the alternative, the claimant seeks repayment from the company in the sum of £361,000 plus interest.
We are quite sad to hear that Khalid wants to make a financial gain from the masjid. We have no issue with him being the full shareholder, but we do have issue with this being exchanged for monetary benefits. We like to remind Khalid and his followers that the masjid was built on his love for doing things for the sake of Allah and to leave it for the community, for the believers to benefit for the sake of Allah. We understand his plight, and if Khalid is innocent, inshallah Allah will make a way out for him.
Notwithstanding, our client is entitled to have your claim against him struck out. I will pursue that application if this offer is not accepted. So we offered Mr. Rashad in December 2021. We offered him one thing and one thing only. That we will rectify the company books to remove my name as a shareholder and put An Noor Trust name there as a shareholder, as it originally was in 2005. And we told him that this offer would be open for acceptance until the 6th of January, one day before the third hearing. So Khalid now has and his legal team two things to contest with. Our application that we applied to the court to strike out his claim, and he's got to think, does he accept this offer and call it a day? He received this letter in December 2021, early December 2021, and he has a deadline of the 6th of January 2022, one day before the hearing. That hearing was due to take place by telephone conference because of COVID-19 and the pandemic. However, one day before the hearing, our solicitors received a letter from the court, an email from the court, saying that the other side, Khalid Rashad, has applied to the court at the last hour for the hearing to be adjourned because he has contracted COVID-19. But the hearing was supposed to be by telephone, Mr. Rashad. Furthermore, you were not supposed to attend because you have your legal team acting on behalf of you. Anyway, the hearing is adjourned, and the court set a third hearing date for the 10th of May. On the 3rd of May, I received a letter from my solicitors. It says, we refer to your open offer, your settlement in a letter dated 17th of December, and we accept. You hear? We refer to your open letter, your settlement, dated the 17th of December, and we accept your offers. Khalid and his legal team, if I go back to the slide, this slide I'm making reference to, they accept our offer. So that hearing on the 10th of May is vacated. So there is no hearing. The case did not go to trial between myself and Mr. Rashad, aka Mr. Mitchell. There was no trial. Because we reached an out-of-court settlement on the 3rd of May. Our lawyers drafted this document that you see on the screen. That's been spread around all over the place. Literally. Our lawyers, our legal team drafted this letter. And it says, upon the claim by the claimant against the defendant dated the 21st of December 2020, and an application by the defendant to strike out the claim, and the parties having agreed the terms of this order in settlement of the claim, and submitted a signed draft order to the court inviting the court to make an order by consent without a hearing, it is consented that the register of members and the statutory books of Brickridge be rectified to show An Noor Trust, the company that we spoke about in the beginning of this meeting, as the sole shareholder of the 100% shares in the company that owns this land. Number 2, same as foresaid, meaning the claims against the defendant that the claimant was bringing against the defendant are rendered null and void and they are dismissed. Number 3, there shall be no order for costs, so I cannot seek my costs from him and vice versa. And number 4, that I, the defendant, shall serve this order on the claimant. This wasn't passed by the judge. The judge never come up with this order. Our legal team come up with this order, and they served it on the claimant. Who is the claimant? Who is the claimant? Khalid Rashad. I am the defendant. Our solicitors signed the document, and Khalid's solicitors signed. We've not publicized this document until today. Although this is a legally binding document, because we have invited the court that they came to enforce the court order. I was handed this document by one of the members of the group, and they said that this is a court warrant, and they prevented me from entering the building. They says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, until further notice, the following persons are not permitted to enter these premises. Number 1, Kalim Reid. Number 2, Mustafa Reid. Number 3, Jamal Reid. Number 4, Yasin Reid. Due to allegations of fraud, deception, theft, and abuse of public funds and threatening and abusive behavior, following a court order, a new committee shall be established by the community. This was handed to me as I attempted to enter the building. This is the fraudulent court warrant that I make reference to in the statement. Because that's what they call it. And that's why you will see it in speech marks or quotation marks. These men, these key individuals, led this protest, led this, how we call it, Roman Empire behavior. Disable CCTV. If you come to talk, you come to sit down with your Muslim brother, do you disable CCTV? Do you disable power? I'm not a criminal, but that kind of mindset leads me to only one thought process. Don't with it? Don't with it. I'll leave you to make your own interpretation. I'll leave you to make your own interpretation. Number 5. Number 5. Item number 5. The future plan of An Noor. Alhamdulillah, An Noor has done a lot for the community. And the community, if it wasn't for you here today, An Noor wouldn't exist. I forgive the brothers that have spread these malicious rumors in an attempt to assassinate my character. They have not produced a single thread of evidence. And I gave an eye on that day, قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. But the man who has his claim, he has a burden on his shoulder. Produce your proof if you are indeed speaking the truth. Certain scenarios, certain situations have to happen for us to be sat here today. A major crime took place, and in the history of Masajid, I don't think that this has ever happened in this country. A man convicted of murder, followed by terrorism. These are not small issues that the government of this country take lightly. And the organization is bigger than all of us, every single one of us. None of us is free from sin. We sin day and night. But when we have an organization, when we have a body of people and we're responsible for that body of people, we have to think in a way, we have to do certain things to protect the community. And that's what was done. If certain things or decisions and movements were not made, we wouldn't be here today. The future plan of this mosque has been a long-standing vision. Nothing new. But it's come at a time where we have to fast-track that. You know, when you have a 5, 10, 15-year plan, this has to be fast-tracked. So we plan to place the ownership and control of this property into the hands of a charity to run as a mosque and community centre for the benefit of the local community under the regulation of the Charity Commission. This will ensure greater accountability and transparency, and members who are respected and represent the community will be duly appointed. This is an ongoing task carried out by An Noor's legal team, the legal team that I have been appointed, and their guidance will be followed at every step. I thank the community for their continued support during this very, very, very challenging time. I think at this juncture, we invite questions.